This is just a sample of the audiobook. To get the complete audiobook, access the link posted in the first comment.
Ilya Ilyitch Oblomov was lying in bed one morning in his flat in Gorokhovy Street in one of the big houses that had almost as many inhabitants as a whole country town. He was a man of 32 or 3, of medium height and pleasant appearance, with dark grey eyes that strayed idly from the walls to the ceiling with a vague dreaminess which showed that nothing troubled or occupied him. His attitude and the very folds of his dressing gown expressed the same untroubled ease as his face. At times his eyes were dimmed by something like weariness or boredom, but neither weariness nor boredom could banish for a moment the softness which was the dominant and permanent expression not merely of his face, but of his whole being. A serene, open, candid mind was reflected in his eyes, his smile, in every movement of his head and his hands. A cold and superficial observer would glance at Oblomov and say, "A good-hearted, simple fellow, I should think." A kinder and more thoughtful man would gaze into his face for some time and walk off smiling, in pleasant uncertainty. Ilya Ilyitch's complexion was neither rosy nor dark nor pale, but indefinite, or perhaps it seemed so because there was a certain slackness about the muscles of his face, unusual at his age. This may have been due to lack of fresh air or exercise, or to some other reason. The smooth and excessively white skin of his neck, his small soft hands and plump shoulders suggested a certain physical effeminacy. His movements were restrained and gentle. There was a certain lazy gracefulness about them, even if he were alarmed. If his mind was troubled, his eyes were clouded, his forehead wrinkled, and an interplay of hesitation, sadness, and fear was reflected in his face. But the disturbance seldom took the form of a definite idea, and still more seldom reached the point of a decision. It merely found expression in a sigh, and died down in apathy or drowsiness. How well Oblomov's dress suited his calm features and soft body! He wore a dressing gown of Persian material, a regular Eastern dressing gown without anything European about it, no tassels, no velvet, no waist, and so roomy that he could wrap it round him twice. The sleeves, in true Asiatic fashion, gradually widened from the wrists to the shoulders. Although the dressing gown had lost its original freshness and was shiny in places with an acquired and not a natural lustre, it still preserved its brilliant Eastern colouring, and the stuff was as strong as ever. The dressing gown had a number of invaluable qualities in Oblomov's eyes. It was soft and pliable, it did not get in his way, it obeyed the least movement of his body, like a docile slave. Oblomov never wore a tie or a waistcoat at home because he liked comfort and freedom. He wore long, soft, wide slippers. When he got up from bed, he put his feet straight into them without looking. Lying down was not for Ilya Ilyitch either a necessity, as it is for a sick or a sleepy man, or an occasional need, as it is for a person who is tired, or a pleasure, as it is for a sluggard. It was his normal state. When he was at home, and he was almost always at home, he was lying down, and invariably in the same room, the one in which we have found him, and which served him as bedroom, study, and reception room. He had 3 more rooms, but he seldom looked into them, only perhaps in the morning when his servant swept his study, which did not happen every day. In those other rooms the furniture was covered, and the curtains were drawn.